Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. You'll never forget the first time. They remain milestones in your memory, and no matter how much time and distance has passed, they remain as vivid in your memory as they were on the day it happened. I had my first real kiss with a girl in the back of a church bus late at night. I was sure I would burn in hell for it, but at the time I thought it was worth it. I think that's when I realized the power the opposite sex has over each other. If I go to hell, at least half a dozen more people will go with me. I saw two other young couples hugging each other tightly. His hand was under her shirt, and hers was in his pants. And my first youthful love broke my heart when my girlfriend left me for a guy in a car. I think this has influenced my attitude towards promise breakers in adulthood. Later, when I made love for the first time, it was exactly the same. It was amazing, and it was hard for me to realize it. But one thing I knew for sure, I really, really liked it. My girlfriend, not really. We did it on her mother's brand new Mercury Marquis the weekend after graduation. My girlfriend was allowed to drive because she graduated from high school with honors, and it took us 4 hours of furious cleaning to make the car smell new again. We made love like bunnies for the rest of the summer, pretending we were adults and knew what we were doing until she left for college. I never met her again. She found a rich guy at school, and I was like a reflection in her rearview mirror. 40 years later, every time we met, even if she was with her third husband, we ended up looking into each other's eyes and smiling. You'll never forget that. Then I fell in love. Naturally, I didn't expect this to happen. It all started with the fact that we were just fooling around and having a good time, and suddenly, bang, I could only think about her. Looking back, I realized that we were too young. I was 19 and she was 20, but our attraction burned like hellfire. Hot, bright, and all-consuming. I was a tall, lanky guy with glasses and disheveled hair. She was tall too, but rounded and buxom, with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes that seemed to look right through you. She just smiled and taught me something I had no idea about, but was damn glad to try. We made love in every conceivable place, in every conceivable position, as well as in those that defied explanation, as often as we could. We enjoyed each other's company and spent so much time together that she suggested we move in together. 40 years ago, this was not as common as it is now, but it happened quite often, and no one paid much attention to it. We found a tiny 3-room apartment that we could afford, and the landlady lowered our rent. She was a city girl and didn't know much, but I grew up on a farm, and that makes me a jack of all trades. However, if I was patient enough with her, then once she understood something, she usually did it pretty well. One evening I proposed to her when she was struggling to wake me up for the third time. You're really a romantic, aren't you? Try again when we're not lying horizontally and I'm not leaking like a broken faucet. I asked her about it again 3 days later when we were at her parents' house. Her father was not at home, but her mother almost fainted from happiness. The ring was tiny, but it didn't seem to bother her, and she was making plans. We got married in a simple ceremony because her parents had almost no money. Then we went to Myrtle Beach for 3 days, where she showed off a bikini so tiny that I wondered if it was allowed on the beach. That seemed to be the case, and most were damn pleased with her choice. She was attacked right in front of my eyes, and I almost lost my temper because she didn't stop him fast enough. Eventually, she saw the look on my face, waved her ring in front of him, and said he was a year late. I think she realized pretty quickly that I was unhappy, so we shortened our stay at the beach, and she attacked me when we entered the room. Just you, honey. Forever. We returned home and started living as a couple. We had a pretty decent job, but I got the opportunity to work for one of the top 3 employers in the area, earning about a third more than I earned back then. The catch was that they worked in shifts, first 1 week, then the second, and the third week later. It was a little confusing for the first couple of months because I woke up at different times and wondered if I should be at work, but I adjusted. For about 9 months, everything was fine, but then I got an uneasy feeling. I called home when I was on the second shift, and no one answered the phone. Then the power went out, and we all went home early, but she wasn't at home. She came in 30 minutes before the end of my shift and almost fainted when she saw me. "Where the hell have you been?" She always told me that she liked my eyes, but at that particular moment, I don't think she liked what she saw in them. She hesitated for a second before saying she was just riding with her best friend Holly. Believe it or not, cruises were all the rage back then. Gasoline was cheap, and the kids had a bike trail. You left Court Square, drove along Main Street for about 3 kilometers before you drove up to the most popular grill bar in the city, made a circle, and returned back. Kids stopped in parking lots to chat and get laid, and the cops were pretty calm, unless they were drinking and messing up. You're a married woman now, Betsy. You don't have to go anywhere. She flared up. I got bored. You can't watch TV very often, and I've never been a fan of long conversations on the phone. Damn it. I'm on the main street in front of hundreds of people. You don't think if I had hooked up with 10 people, they wouldn't have told you about it, do you? We argued with each other for about an hour before we calmed down. I had to admit that I was jealous, and she had to admit that she liked the attention when guys talked to her in the parking lot or in the parking lot while they talked to Holly. They didn't try to persuade you? A fleeting smile flashed across her face before she made a polite face again. Of course we tried, honey. Marrying you didn't make me ugly, but I try to keep them from doing anything. It was a difficult weekend, but by the end we came to an understanding. She could go with Holly, but as soon as I feel that something has gone wrong, it's over between us. I think it shocked her, because even in her wildest dreams she did not think that I would ever leave her. Everything was going well until summer came. Then the parties at the lake began. In the weeks when I was working the second shift, I left for work at 2:30, and she was in a bikini waiting for Holly to pick her up at 3. If you mix hormones, weed and booze in the right ratio, shit happens, and it generates rumors that reach me. Instead of arguing with her, I switched shifts with a guy, and on Friday afternoon I sat in the parking lot in a borrowed car and waited for Holly's car to pass by. I followed them straight to the party place on the lake, parked at the boat dock a kilometer away, and returned on foot. I sat in the bushes and watched her flirt and drink. An hour later, everyone was delighted, and Holly stood up. It's time to go skinny dipping. Her top flew right past where I was hiding, and her panties soon followed. Betsy was right behind her. There were 5 women and 6 guys, and soon they were all naked. It was almost dark, so I packed up as many bathing suits and other clothes as I could and went to the other side of the bay. I covered it all with rocks and went chest deep into the water before throwing them as far as possible. I watched them drown for a minute, and then I went back. I found Betsy hugging a guy. I grabbed him by his long hair and dived to the bottom, dragging him with me. Betsy stood stunned as my face appeared above the surface. The water was bubbling around me as the guy panicked and tried to breathe. Don't come home. I'm sure a friend will let you stay with him until he gets bored, and then you'll end up on the street like another cheater. Maybe I'll take you off sometime. You've always done a good job, and I bet you're a better person now that you've got some extra practice. It didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked, but she got into my feelings. The next thing I saw, Holly was sitting on my back and scratching the grooves with her long nails. I let go of the jerk, and he stood up, spitting water and breathing heavily. I pulled the fool away from me and punched him in the stomach. The air came out of her like a punctured balloon, and she fell down like a stone. One of you assholes better pick her up, or you'll miss one cheater. Betsy tried to speak, but I just dived under the water again, swimming halfway across the small bay before surfacing. She hasn't been home for 3 weeks. She lived with her parents. She went straight to work and straight home. I've received several indirect threats for drowning their clothes, and I bet it was a pretty interesting trip home for some. No one told me to my face because I was known to be a great fighter, but more importantly, I didn't know how to stop. If I was fighting with someone, all I could think about was killing them. This led to quite interesting situations, and a couple of times I almost ended up in jail, but the rumors leaked out. If you fought against me, you better be sure that you win. If not, she begged, she cried, she apologized. One day I stopped her by asking a question. How many were there? How much of what? How many guys did you sleep with while I was working my ass off at work to provide us with a better life? She paused, and I grinned. Too much to remember? No. 3. Okay. Trio. Well, that's it. You've made love to 3 guys, not me, and that says you'll never leave. Why stick to the menu if you can order a buffet? Look, we don't have shit. We haven't been together long enough to pay child support. You take yours, and I'll take mine, and we'll break up. She fainted. Her mother, whom I have always loved, came to my house and begged me to take her back. "She's learned her lesson, son. Give her another chance. You won't regret it." Her father was an old-school man, and he advised me to beat the crap out of her and forget about it. It took 3 months before we got back together, after many promises and several threats. By that time, my company had expanded its building twice as much as it had before, doubling its production capacity. A side effect was that they no longer had to work 3 shifts, so they cut back on working the 3rd shift. I also got a promotion, becoming a leading specialist in the decoration department. We were working in production, and when my group started earning more, they tried to figure out why. My team consisted mostly of women, and I had to set up various machines to fulfill orders, so I always took 1 or 2 boxes to make sure everything was up to specification and in good working order. My colleague would install the machine, run 2 or 3 products through it, and return to the office if he was working the 2nd shift. I stayed on the floor helping the packer seal and place the boxes on the right pallet, and when we got better, I taught him a few simple replacements. Sometimes we had 2 or more machines installed and running, so the women just moved from one to the other without downtime. The packer and I were paid on average as much as the line produced, and we earned $1 more per hour than our colleagues. It got to the point that if a vacancy appeared, women from another shift asked for a transfer. It came to a head when another guy came out against me. "You're making me look bad." I grinned at him. "No, you do it all by yourself. You and Jesse need to keep your asses off the dance floor and help the girls a little. Then you'd be making money." It got to the point where the management intervened and asked me to hire his packer for a couple of weeks so that he could study my system. I thought it would be a struggle, but Jesse was more than ready to learn and didn't really want to return to his shift after graduation. John almost kissed me when he came back. Eric is a jerk and a joker. Women despise him, but they love me. They got a 50-cent an hour pay raise, and they begged me to stay with them. 50 cents and $1 doesn't sound like much now, but 45 years ago it was a lot. Then Eric committed an incredible stupidity. He accosted a married woman with a jealous husband. He threatened to fire her if she didn't do what he wanted. For some reason, she contacted me, and I sent her to our manager, who promised to fix everything. He didn't do it. He and Eric were longtime drinking buddies, so he hid the situation from senior management. Everything went to pieces when the husband came to the factory and threatened to kick ass if nothing was done about it. It was just during a shift change, and I sent John for the production manager, and I tried to persuade him. Then his wife appeared, looking scared to death. She held back, but when Eric grabbed her so hard that she had bruises on her chest, she left in the middle of her shift and told her husband everything. Eric came in, saw us talking to the production manager, and turned pale. Then he tried to justify himself. "What is she doing here? I fired her last night for insubordination and poor performance." The production manager was in his 40s, and he had encountered similar things before. "Eric, you're the leader. You don't have the authority to fire anyone. All you can do is document the situation and pass it on to your manager. I think we all need to go to the conference room and discuss this." He called our manager, the factory director, and they all left. Her husband was still standing there. They promised him that they would sort out the situation and he would be able to take his wife home for the night, which would not affect her work in any way. I went back to my work. The next day, Eric was no longer with us, and the decoration manager was on probation. The production manager called me into his office. "Sabrina said that she told you about the situation, and you contacted the decoration manager through all channels. It's true?" "Yes." He sighed. "Okay. I want to ask you for help. You've trained John well, so we're going to offer him Eric's job. You've also worked with Jesse, but he doesn't have the experience we need. We need you to work with both of them and train someone for John's old job. Will you help me? I think we can start with 2 shifts, at least for 2 months. We will try to make it worth your effort." What does Bill think about this? Bill was the decoration manager. The production manager smiled. "Oh, he agrees. Will you do it? It costs $2 more per hour." I couldn't wait to tell Betsy. Betsy seemed impressed. "So, you get a raise and work 2 shifts. Is this some kind of promotion?" "Something like that. This will make me look better in the eyes of the management." "Who knows?" "Well, all right then. It will be nice to see you at home every evening." For 2 weeks, I worked 12 or more hours a day. Things were getting better when another incident occurred. The decoration manager was unhappy with the probation period and tried to take it out on me. The situation escalated when I found myself under the machine, fixing a breakdown. I had already transferred the team to another job that I had organized, but this order took time. When he called me to the office, I had already disassembled it. Our office was little more than a cubicle measuring 20 by 20 centimeters with a glass window facing the floor. He could literally see me from where he was. I continued to work. He called me again, and then did something incredibly stupid. He whistled into the microphone and said, "To my office, quickly." I finished the repair and motioned for the new guy to take the girls back to the machine, and I burst into the office. He was about to launch into a tirade, but I cut him off abruptly, saying right to his face, "Let me tell you something. If you want something to appear when you whistle, you need to get a damn dog. Is everything clear with this? So, what did you need? You can't disrespect me like that. I'm going to fire you. If you want respect, you need to earn it. Let's leave it to the professionals. What did you need again?" He ranted for 5 minutes, forgetting about the speaker turned on. The whole factory heard it, not just my group. "You're fired. Get the fuck out of here." He was about to launch into another tirade when the door opened and the production manager entered, followed by the factory director. The factory director reached out and turned off the loudspeaker. Then he turned to face the decoration manager. "You really should make sure that things like this are turned off before you start ranting. Do you want to tell me what happened here?" I told him on the speakerphone to come to my office. I gave him a direct order, but he didn't obey, and then he came and gave me a dressing down. He looked at me. "Did he tell you?" "Yes." "Did he do it?" "Have you come?" I was at number 1, repairing the mine. I was right in front of him, and he could see me from the office. I only had about 5 minutes before it was fixed, so I stayed put. "It's a peace order, sir, and they need it by morning." As soon as I finished, I went to him and told him that I didn't like being called like a dog. "You probably heard what I said, and I'm not going to go back on my words." Mira was by far our biggest customer and incredibly picky, but we made a lot of money from him and we weren't going to upset him. He looked at the manager. "Did you know why he worked so hard on it?" "It doesn't matter. He disrespected me, and I want something done about it." "Don't you think it was disrespectful to whistle at him like a pet? Grow up, Bill. This is the real world." He turned to me. "You, get back to work. Come to my office in the morning." Then he looked at the manager. "And you, leave him alone so he can do his job. One more skirmish, and one or both of you will have to leave. Do you understand?" He didn't like it. I didn't like it at all, but he shook his head. "I need to hear you say it out loud. No more confrontations." He looked at both of us. "That's enough. And now it's time for us to go home. Jeff, make sure Myra's order is completed before you leave. Okay?" "Yes, sir." If looks could kill, I would have died before I took 6 steps out of the office. I took a packer and we helped the women finish the order, doing it a little faster than usual because we had enough people to do it. The next day, I arrived early and waited for a few minutes at the office of the plant director before he called me. He sat back in his chair for a minute, just looking at me, and then he broke into a smile. "I had an interesting morning. I talked to the ladies on duty, and they all told the same story, that Eric proposed to all of them, and Bill did nothing. He even proposed to the couple himself. When I talked to him, he got furious, threatened to resign, and I let him. He tried to take it back, but I told him that we would start an official investigation, maybe involve the police, and he left. This puts me in a somewhat difficult position. For the foreseeable future, you will be the temporary decoration manager. I still want you to work 2 shifts and train everyone, but from now on you have to attend staff meetings every afternoon. If you work well, Jeff, you may get this job on a permanent basis. Are you interested?" Well, hell, yes, I was interested. My salary increased by another $3, which at that time was much higher than the average level. Betsy was thrilled, especially because it meant that someday in the future we would be able to buy a house. 3 months later, a friend called me. Barry ran a loan company, one of those not quite predatory operations that usually brought in 5% more than banks. "Hey man, are you still looking for a house?" "Not really. I don't even have the required down payment." "How much do you have?" "What about it?" I asked him and felt a smile on his face on the phone. "Come to me. I might have something that you might be interested in." Something turned out to be a 4-year-old building on a plot of 20 acres. The owners moved out and didn't pay off the loan, and I was able to get it to pay off the debt. Betsy and I talked about it, and although it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, we agreed that we needed to start somewhere, and maybe in a few years we could find a real home. It was one of the most joyful days of my life when I carried Betsy over the threshold, and she giggled all the time. Since I grew up on a farm, I immediately started landscaping. I started with the yard, sowed it, allocating a small space for a garden. Dad came and helped me fix the house and the fence in the backyard. Betsy went and bought enough tomatoes to cover the whole yard, and even more. So we planted everything we could and distributed the rest. I can still see her smile when she picked her first tomato. Betsy successfully coped with her job, having worked her way up from a general assistant to an inventory specialist, and our future could not but rejoice. I still worked 13 hours a day, but now I was getting paid, so I didn't have overtime. Betsy was a little outraged by this, until I told her that, according to my calculations, I would return to my usual work schedule by the end of the month. John was doing very well, and although Jesse might not have been that smart, he learned a lot. The new guy we hired to do the packaging was his cousin and was very happy to get the job. Pretty soon, production grew by 8% more than ever. They even sent guys from the corporation to observe the operation. It was summer, and I came home at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening every day, 6 days a week. Then it happened. I came home and she wasn't there. She came in drunk around 11, and Holly gave her a ride. I didn't say a word as she stumbled to get ready for bed. Even after the shower, I could smell the weed coming from her. When I got up, she was still unconscious and late for work. I left her in bed and went to work. That evening, when I returned home, she was very depressed. She cooked a delicious dinner, one of my favorites, and didn't say a word. After the dishes were washed, we sat down and she grabbed the TV remote control. I snatched it out of her hands. "So you're not even going to talk about last night?" It was a mistake. I shouldn't have stayed so long, but I was having a good time. You shouldn't have stayed there at all. You know how I feel about Holly, but you went. To hell with my husband. I want to have fun. He'll get over it. Isn't that right? I could tell by her blush that I was close to a solution. That's the thing. We won't talk about it. If you've been making love to some random guy, sooner or later it's going to come out. If so, then it's over between us. There won't be any more chances. Do you understand? She turned a little pale and promised never to do it again, but I saw the indignation in her eyes. Everything was quiet for a while. Holly came to my office to ask for a job and apologize. I couldn't wait for the interview. I let her chat for a while about what a good employee she could be before I stopped her. "Holly, you've been fired from 3 jobs in the last 9 months, all because you're not at work. You know how strict this company is about this, and I seriously doubt you'll last 2 months. That's because you're still mad at me and Betsy. You're an asshole. She's not 90. She needs to go outside and have fun from time to time. You need to relax and give her a break. She can do whatever she wants as long as she's with me. I know my schedule was crazy, but now it's back to normal. If she wants to do it with someone else, she's free to leave. Personal issues aside, I'm afraid we won't be able to offer you a job, Ms. Walton. Good luck next time." She went straight to the factory director, and he called me after she left. "I take it you don't like this woman?" I would spit on the ground she walks on, but I would be dehydrated in less than an hour. She and I had a disagreement about my wife, but that's not why I didn't hire her. Look at her work history. That was the end of the conversation. It wasn't until October that she slipped again. My company sent me to its factory 2 states away for a training seminar. I was excited and nervous, but despite that, it was a productive 3 days. When I returned home, my mind was in a kind of daze. It was an empty house and with a note on the kitchen table. I tried. I really tried, but I met someone. I've already moved my things, so don't try to find me. I will always love you, just not the way I should. Unfortunately, it didn't upset me as much as I thought it would. Instead of grieving, I went to bed and slept for 10 hours. When I woke up, I looked around and found that she had removed all traces of her presence, except for our photo together, which she left on my bedside table. It went straight into the trash. As the weeks went by, I think she was surprised that I didn't apply. In my opinion, she wanted it herself, so she had to pay for it. I was too old and tired to travel, But one evening I was driving through the city and saw her and Holly in a custom-made van made by Holly. As she drove by, Holly made sure she was ringing the little bell hanging on the rearview mirror. I thought it sounded silly. I was heading to the driver's diner to order a triple burger with onion rings, their signature dish. A little later, Holly ran into the store alone and rang the bell. When I finished, Betsy appeared, but Holly was nowhere to be seen, and she rang the bell too. One of the guys sitting next to me laughed. I see that the lusty bell is ringing. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked. He said, "These two girls are the craziest women I've ever seen. They go on a trip, meet a guy, and one of them drives the car while the other is busy in the van. Then they change guys and drivers. They call this little bell the lusty bell, and it rings often. They've both given me a ride in the last month." I thought about it a bit and had to admit that it hurt me more than I thought. It wasn't my problem anymore, so I finished my burger and went home. It wasn't long before it became known that Betsy and I had broken up. I wasn't unattractive, I was in good shape. I had a really nice car and my own house, albeit a small one, so the sharks started circling around me. I've dated too, and according to rumors, Betsy did a pretty good job with one. I could only wonder what difference it made to her that I could sleep with someone as easily as she did. A week before Thanksgiving, she met a guy, and they lived together for almost a month before he dumped her. A few days before Christmas, she called me at work and asked if I would come to her house in the next couple of days. It looks like she's got me a Christmas present. Wondering what she was up to, I agreed. She collected pigeon figurines, so I splurged and bought her a really beautiful one, trying to rub it in her face that I have money for such things. She met me at the door in a tight mini dress, with a hairstyle that I liked. Signal flashes started immediately, because I knew that it must mean that she wanted something. We talked for a minute before she handed me a gift, a rather beautiful watch. When she saw the pigeon, she burst into tears, jumped on my lap, and kissed me hard. It was an extremely bad idea, but I hadn't made love in a month, and despite all her other flaws, making love to her was amazing. We ended up tumbling in her bed for 2 hours. She had a couple of tricks that she must have learned after we broke up. When I finally gave up, she asked if I could stay at her place for the night. Why? Obviously, marriage wasn't for you. Why should I waste my time beating up a dead horse? It's better to just bury it and move on. Betsy began to cry, copious tears interspersed with agonized sobs. There were a lot of apologies and requests, and now you can call me a wimp because she got me. I promised her that I would think about it, and we went to bed. Yes, indeed, she has learned a few tricks in the last 7 weeks, or she has always had them, but she has never shown them to me. Then she burst into tears and said that she was very sorry for what she had done to me, that she still loved me and was going to do everything in her power to get us back together. She went upstairs to take a shower, complaining that it was too small for the two of us. I lay down on my back and dozed off. The phone woke me up. I lay there and listened to her finish the conversation. A Christmas party? Then another one, on New Year's Eve, at the Radisson? Do you already have a number? I would love to go. She was silent for a minute and then giggled. Yes, I hooked up with him last night, but I'll tell him that we should wait until the new year to be together again. In the meantime, party, party, party. I got up as quietly as I could and got dressed. When I entered the living room, she squeaked, "I have to go now. Will we talk later?" Who was that? Holly. You know how much she likes to chat. If Holly had been on the other end of the line, her voice would probably have been quieter. Betsy wrapped a towel around her hair and body, and when she got up, it fell off. I looked at her long, slender legs, gorgeous ass, and rounded buttocks, and sighed, realizing that I was seeing them for the last time. Deciding to make it easier for her, I told her that I already had plans for Christmas, and maybe we should wait a little bit before we get back together. She pretended to be sad, but she didn't do it very well. I thought about it on the way, still feeling her scent on me, and realized that I had just experienced another, for the first time in my life. For the first time, my heart was truly broken. Until that moment, some irrational part of my brain really believed that eventually we would be together again and live happily ever after. Christmas and New Year have come and gone. I never called, but rumor has it that on January 2nd her new lover dumped her like a rock, so I wasn't too surprised when she called me at work. I deliberately did not answer the phone at home and let the phone turn on the answering machine. After the fifth message, there was desperation in her voice. Hi, Betsy. How are you? I hope we're with you. The last time I saw you, I seem to remember some promises. Well, I was very busy at work. One of my setup assistants and I worked overtime, so the romantic relationship took a backseat. There was a short silence, and I continued before she could speak. Oops, I have to go. There's an urgent call on the line. I'll call you back later. We played phone games for the next 2 weeks. One evening she called and looked very depressed. You're not coming back, are you? No, I'm not coming back. I'm tired of being treated like a pinball machine that you can throw here and there. When you left me for Christmas to go out and have fun, I realized that even if we were together, sooner or later you'd start all over again. This is true. Goodbye. I'm sorry about what happened, and I'm willing to take some of the blame for my work schedule, but mostly it's your fault. Every time you had a choice, you made the wrong one. Goodbye, Betsy. Maybe in time you'll find a guy who'll let you play with him. When I hung up, she was crying and trying to say something. There was another chapter in this little story. The day after Valentine's Day, she came and woke me up by pulling my long hair and making a real commotion. Finally, I woke up enough to pull her away from me. What the hell is wrong with you? You have to give me back my key before you leave, which will happen very soon. What do you want? It turned out that no one had invited her to Valentine's Day, and I should have intervened. I'm sorry that you're dating such a cheap bastard that he dumped you 2 days before the big event. But really, Betsy, we're not together anymore, so why should I care? Give him a week and he'll be back sniffing around. Now is the time for you to leave. She paused and looked down at the bed. There was a red bra, 2 sizes too big for her to wear. If she had looked under the bed, she would have found matching bikini panties. It was cruel, but I couldn't help myself. Yes, I really had a good Valentine's Day. Now she might be back any minute, and I don't want an awkward situation. I walked her to her car, grinning when another one pulled up to her while she was driving out. Who was it, and why was she crying? My future ex-wife. It looks like her Valentine's Day wasn't as good as ours. Crystal knew the story and, grinning, dragged me back into the house. Why was I thinking about all this? My granddaughter was in her grandmother's arms and crying her heart out. I looked at them and grinned. Do you know what's even better than your first love? Your last one. I have lived with this woman for 40 years and prayed that I would have as many more. This was based on my first marriage and 2 other married couples that I interacted with when I was young. My first wife passed away recently. She reformed and married a good man. She got married 6 times, including one guy she married twice before she got it right. Rest in peace, Deb. End.